I'm Cheree Ramirez with Children's Services Council of Martin County. I'm excited to be back in studio at the 10th Street Community Center at the 10th Street Studio. We are here with Ann Posey with Tykes Teens.
Hi, Cheree.
Hello, thank you for coming and joining us for our Community Unity vlog. We're going to highlight Ann Posey with Tykes Teens, the CEO of this wonderful organization that helps our kids. And I'm excited to just be able to get to know you and your why and your mission. So
Well, thank you.
please tell me a little bit about yourself.
So, as you said, I'm Ann Posey. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Tykes Teens. I've been there about 15 months, actually maybe a year and a half at this point. I have lived and worked in this community, though, for probably the past 30 years, always in behavioral health in some capacity. I'm a licensed mental health counselor by training. I'm also a nationally certified counselor. I keep my license active, even though mostly what I do now is administration. I'm very proud that we're a partner with the Children's Services Council of Martin County and able to provide wonderful programming to our children. Our mission at Tykes Teens is really to be the trusted provider of behavioral health services for children, both through treatment and prevention.
We have 4 programs that are funded through CSC dollars: general mental health, infant mental health, prevention services, and alternative out-of-school suspension, so ALTOSS. So, which is actually just right next to us in the classroom right next to us. And I want to kind of get an overview of all of those programs, but what are their purposes and the functions?
Sure. So general mental health is what people think about traditionally when they think about counseling or therapy. So a therapist will meet with a child and their family one-on-one. We like to see the child in the setting that makes the best sense for the child. Mm-hmm. So that may be in the office, but a lot of our children have trouble with transportation or, time, et cetera. So we'll also see them in the school. We might see them in an after-school program. We may see them in the home, or we might see them via telehealth. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of options for kids. We use evidence-based practices, and I think that's really important when someone seeks a therapist is to ask that question, what evidence-based practices do you use? Which means we follow the science. So you're not just going in and chatting about your issues, but you're really looking at strategies that have been proven to work: cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, EMDR, which is a trauma technique. So many words.
I don't understand because I'm not a licensed
right. But
therapist.
I think for families, make sure that the agencies can talk to you about evidence-based practices that follow the science. We also have an infant mental health program. I don't know if you want me to go on and talk about that.
Yes, please go ahead.
We're very proud of the fact that we're, as far as we know, the only provider offering infant mental health for the 0 to 5 population using evidence-based practice, which is called child-parent psychotherapy. So a lot of people say, what do you do with a child who's
newborn,
right? Well, most of our referrals come from the Department of Children and Families. So they're families that have already experienced trauma, abuse, neglect, substance use, maybe mental health problems amongst the parents. And they don't really have the skills to parent the child or understand what the child's cues may mean. If a child's crying all the time, what does that mean? So we're really working, the patient is actually the relationship between the parent and the child.
That's beautiful.
It is.
And I think that we need more of that. So
well,
thank
early
you for
intervention.
doing that. Yes.
Early intervention is really the key. We know that people wait way too long to get mental health care, and usually after they're already experiencing symptoms, which I'm glad you're wearing green today for mental health awareness, because I think it's important to talk about that. But we're very proud of our infant mental health program. In conjunction with that, a newly funded program by Children's Services Council, as well as some other funders, is our mental health consultation program, where we work with our early childhood providers. In my day, we would have called them daycare, so that's not what they are. Obviously, they're early learning situations. But we go in and work with the teachers to help the teachers also understand what behaviors mean, and to keep teachers in their roles longer, and also prevent children from being expelled from child care centers, which actually happens more than we think.
Well, and it's very interesting too, because I know that we fund El Cermo, and a lot of those dollars go towards, the early childhood literacy and the development and the teachers, because there is so much turnover. So I love that you're working with them to help them stay and retain those positions.
Exactly. That's one of the first really significant relationships children form. And so what we don't want them to have is a lot of, attachment issues because their teacher left or because they were engaging maybe in a developmentally appropriate behavior like biting that happens around the age of 2 and are expelled. We know that children, when they get expelled from childcare, are at higher risk then of having problems later on in school. So we're very proud of our early childhood programming that really helps us to get those children and those families early to prevent future problems.
With that type of work, helping break cycles and overcome trauma as a parent so that doesn't get imprinted on their child. That's so important because generational cycles have such a huge, what's the word I'm looking for?
Impact.
The impact, thank you, on the lives of that child throughout their entire life.
Well, and a lot of parents don't even know they have generational trauma.
No, exactly.
So another thing that we do and that CSC really helps us with funding for is our prevention programs. So really, we have people that will go out and train child serving or adult serving organizations or businesses. They'll really train anyone on trauma and what the impact of trauma can be and how to recognize trauma. All it takes is one caring person to help someone get into care, so we really want to do a lot of education. We do a lot of work in the schools with our alcohol literacy challenge, and we teach a program that's evidence-based called BOTVID Life Skills in the schools, and do a lot of prevention work with youth in the community and in the school system.
I know my daughter comes home every so often with a permission slip for me to sign. I know that is an opt-in. So if you have a student who comes home to have a permission slip signed for opting in,
Please do that.
Please do that because it's so important for our children to be able to learn about these things so that they don't fall into the wrong crowds and make the wrong decisions.
And
so
we want our parents, want our parents to be involved and to agree to it.
Yes.
Our alternative to out-of-school suspension that you mentioned earlier, that's right here at the 10th Street Community Center, is a program we've had for a long time and is considered a prevention program, but it's for kids who get suspended. So when a child gets suspended maybe for vaping or for getting into a fight, or my daughter got suspended her junior year for being on her phone all the time. They have an option to come to the ALTOSS, Alternative to Out-of-School Suspension, so that they have a productive day rather than just sitting at home during their suspension. So we teach a program called Haptitudes, which is evidence-based. We help with some credit recovery in that program, and then also we have a full-time counselor in that program, therapist, who can provide services to the kids. So we're really grateful to CSC for all the funding that you all do to help us provide those programs in the community.
Thank you, Martin County homeowners, for your continued support for over 35 years, because without your support, we wouldn't be able to help fund these organizations that really do tremendous work in the community. And actually, I highlighted one of the ALTOSS students. She wrote in an impact story, a success story, and saying how wonderful the counselor was and how beneficial it was to her in her life and to be able to help set her up on the right path. And she said, I think that everybody needs to go through a program like this.
Oh, that's awesome.
So kudos to the program and to the individuals who are working there day in and day out to help these students. So thank you. So moving on from the programs that are funded with Martin County taxpayer dollars, please tell me why you find this work so important and why you're doing what you do.
So I grew up in a household with a brother who had significant mental health issues from the time he was very young. So I think seeing the impact of that on my family, the impact on him, the lack of services that were really available probably drove me a little bit into this field. And I've always been a big advocate of access to behavioral health services. That's something that I feel is really important. And I tell this story. So if you broke your arm and you waited 10 years to get treatment for that broken arm or to get an x-ray, what would be all the secondary effects you might see? Well, you might not be able to drive. You might self-medicate with drugs or alcohol because you were in so much pain. You might lose your job because you couldn't get to work or perform the duties. Your spouse might leave you because of all these, other things going on. We know the average wait for someone from the time they experience mental health symptoms till they actually get help is about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So if you look at it in that lens, right, what my passion is to make sure that people understand that mental health is health, and that when you start to experience symptoms, even very young, let's get into care and get the help so that we don't get all those secondary effects that come when mental health is left untreated.
Well, I love that it's become a hot topic, and it's been something that has been pushed to the forefront because of what happened in 2020.
It's one of the gifts of the pandemic.
I mean, it is talked about now without stigma, and I feel like there is more of a confidence in saying, well, I'm seeking help for that. Like, I mean, there's more of a freedom when you're able to talk about the things that have affected you and to be able to let that go and to just leave it in the past where it's meant to be and move forward. And I love that your counselors and your therapists are making such a change in these children's lives who might not have had those resources otherwise. So again, thank you. That's just a tremendous thing that I guess 2020 has done for us.
Well, we're very proud of our clinicians. We really invest a lot into them, from supervision to training and using evidence-based techniques. And because we want the children that we serve to have that same experience that they might have in a private practice setting.
That's wonderful. So you mentioned that you were newer in your role, about 15 months, almost a year and a half. What have been some of the challenges that you've been facing in this transition in your career?
I think for most nonprofits, especially smaller nonprofits, the cost of doing business, right? And I think people need to recognize that nonprofits are businesses. We employ 75 people in this community, right? We offer health insurance, we offer all those different things that employees need. Our employees have lives too. So walking into a nonprofit that had a legacy leader for a long time, well known in the community, and then Jeff Cheree. He's wonderful. I took my own daughter to him 14 years ago, maybe longer than that, to Tykes Teens, because I really respected what they did as a clinician. But nonprofits are difficult to manage. The way that we're reimbursed, we're very grant dependent, so a lot of those are cost reimbursement. Our rates for reimbursement are not what they should be. So we serve a large number of children with Medicaid. Medicaid rates, they increased last year a whole $8 an hour, I believe. They really reimburse at about 50% of what it costs to provide the service.
Wow.
So that's really been a big challenge, is how to kind of keep the doors open, knowing that it's a challenge to be reimbursed the way we should. And then really labor costs. So the gift of the pandemic is that more people are seeking therapy. So we see a lot of clinicians leaving as soon as they get licensed for roles that pay better, which I'm grateful for because I am a licensed therapist, so I'm glad that that's available with less paperwork, but that is not something that we can offer. So the cost of labor has almost doubled. Therapists are commanding double what they were 5 years ago, but our reimbursement rates haven't increased.
So how has that affected the numbers and who you serve?
So we have less therapists on staff than we did 5 years ago because they and this is the businessy aspect, right, that we don't talk about a lot, but they cost more, So where 5 years ago I could have hired 2 therapists, now I can only hire 1 based on our
Very
budget,
interesting.
right? So we have less therapists, which means that we have higher wait lists and different things. But we're looking for strategies to resolve that. We do try and grow our own therapists to some degree. So we work with a lot of the universities to do practicums for people while they're in graduate school.
Great.
And then we try to hire them when they graduate because we're able to offer them supervision for licensure, which can be very costly for a therapist. The problem is as soon as they get licensed, they have a lot more opportunities.
Yeah.
But we're proud of the fact,
as you were saying, with the funding
right? But we're
aspect,
proud of the
salaries.
fact that around this community, a lot of the therapists in private practice and in other agencies who are licensed got their start at Tykes Teens.
That's great. So that's wonderful. So that is just one of the ways that you're trying to help bridge that gap that we're experiencing right now because of the insurance and because of the salary and the inflation that we're seeing, not just here in the community, but worldwide.
Right. I mean, housing costs, and we could go down that rabbit hole. But
that's a rabbit hole
right,
for sure.
But housing costs certainly impact our clinicians, and a lot of our clinicians are young. They have young families, so we want to be able to offer them a wage that makes sense.
Well, I thank you for wanting to be able to provide that to people who are looking for work. Check out Tykes Teens.
Absolutely.
who if you're licensed therapist
or a registered clinical intern seeking
there we
licensure. We do offer that supervision they need for licensure
so
at no cost.
Where would they go to look up your open roles?
Go to our website, www.tykesanteens.org, and there's a button that says careers.
Perfect. You heard it from Ann. Check it out. So what are some of your goals moving forward to be able to what is your vision for Tykes Teens, and how do you see it continuing to grow and blossom?
So our vision really is to be the trusted provider of behavioral health services and to maintain and grow our workforce of clinicians. That is our core service. We also are very proud of our prevention offerings and making sure those stay in place. So we look for strategies for ways to do that. So one of the things we're very excited about is Impact 100 Martin County recently awarded us a grant to do a walk-in center for children with urgent mental health needs.
That's amazing.
We're very excited. So again, I said one of my passions is access. And right now, when a family calls for help, it's a very fragmented system. They might make 3 or 4 phone calls, and this agency may have a wait list. This agency, maybe they don't take Medicaid. Maybe they only see teenagers and not elementary school children. So really, by the time a family makes about 3 phone calls, a lot of times they'll give up, and just not get the care they need. So having the ability to walk in, have an assessment done to identify what their needs are, and then our vision is that certainly if they want to be at Tykes Teens and we have the capacity to serve them, we want to do that.
Yeah.
But if we don't and we have a wait list, maybe we call one of our community partners. So maybe we call Suncoast Mental Health and say, do you have space for this child? Or maybe another funded partner. just making sure that we can get that child into services as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Because it takes, it's an old phrase, but it takes a village. We can't do it alone, and we need to make sure that we aren't holding kids on a wait list when maybe another agency has services available. So we really see this as an opportunity to partner with a lot of the other mental health agencies.
So community unity is what she's saying.
Absolutely.
Community unity is really what it's all about because, like you said, it takes a village to raise a child. And when we come together and we have the same mission and goals, we can really, truly make the future so much brighter for the children in Martin County. So that's one of the reasons why I love doing this, because that's my next question of what are some of the collaborations and the community partners that you currently have? Now, you already mentioned the school district.
Right. We have a very strong relationship with the school district. We work with Safe Space, the domestic violence shelter, so we provide counseling services within Safe Space for both the children and the mothers that are there. We work with a lot of the child-serving agencies, so the after-school programs. We last year ran a summer camp for the first time for children with intensive behavioral health needs that are at Tykes Teens. And we worked with the Hope Center for Autism collaboratively to share space there. I could probably go on and on. Boys and Girls Club,
10th Street
YMCA,
Community
10th Street Community Center, City of Stuart. If there's anyone out there that wants to partner with us, we're more than willing. We work with helping people succeed with their early childhood program.
Their BRAIN program, which is also funded with your taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Early Learning Coalition. So we really, collaboration is kind of the name of the game for us.
I feel like that's key, and especially in such a small community, because we never know what the person sitting next to us is going through. And if we can be the light that reignites their spark, why not do it?
Just takes one person.
And it's just a conversation, and and being more human, I think, is what we need, is to be able to truly care about our neighbor. And once we have that, I feel like we'll be able to have, again, just a brighter future for our children.
One of the things we do at Tykes Teens, and actually I did before I came to Tykes Teens when I was with Cleveland Clinic, is offer mental health first aid, which is, I call it the CPR for mental health. You know, so everybody knows.
Please explain it.
Everybody knows CPR. If you come across someone and they look like they're having a heart attack, you take their pulse, and if not, then you start chest compressions. And most of us know how to do that. Now, you're not performing heart surgery, right? You're not going to follow them to the hospital and perform heart surgery. Mental health first aid is kind of the same thing. So it's offered to lay people. Just talks about the different signs and symptoms of what someone experiencing a mental health crisis might be showing, helps give people language to have the conversation, and then helps steer them towards professional help or self-help.
Well, one of the first things that you're supposed to ask somebody when you come across them in CPR, because we just went through CPR training at CSC, was, are you okay?
And it's basically the same thing.
Basically the same thing.
How can I help?
How can I help? Are you okay? Are you okay? So just a few more things here. I wanted to ask you about any upcoming events or anything that you do outside of receiving funds from, your grant writing. What are some other exercises that you do?
Absolutely. Our funding's pretty complicated. So we do serve 4 counties. We talk a lot about Martin County on this show, but we do serve all 4 counties. So overall, we have about 30 grants that we receive.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
you have to allocate them to certain places.
We do.
I totally understand that with Martin County, CSC.
We also bill third-party insurance. So we take Medicaid and most major insurances. We have a sliding fee scale too. So if most children have insurance, or are eligible for insurance. So that really isn't a reason to not seek services at Tykes Teens.
Yeah.
We can help with that. And then we rely a lot on philanthropy and the goodness of people willing to help support kind of the gap that happens. So grants and insurance and Medicaid really don't cover the costs, especially now with how much
all the
labor has
inflation.
increased. So we work with some very generous donors. We work with the Community Foundation of Martin and St. Lucie County and the Community Foundation of Martin and Palm Beach County, to help us with those philanthropic donors. For years, we did a fundraiser called Festival of Trees and Lights, and a lot of people know that fundraiser in Martin County. It's a fundraiser that's a very heavy lift, but we know it's very dear to the community. So we won't be doing that this year, but we have partnered, well, not really even partnered, we've kind of given Festival of Trees to the Children's Museum.
Oh, wonderful.
Right. So that will remain in the community, and we will probably do a tree this year.
But just won't have to do it. The background work and everything that goes into making a successful event, because event planning is a lot of work. It's a task.
It is, and one of the things we've done is really lean down our leadership team so that we can focus on hiring those clinicians that we need. So the bandwidth for us was a little much. So we're focusing more on private philanthropy, getting our message out to donors. We were very blessed to that donor in this county gave us a $100,000 challenge.
That's amazing.
Right, which we met.
Yeah.
And,
with the Impact 100 grant.
No, this was with Bill Lichtenberger, who's a generous donor in our community. And so we use that to leverage some fundraising and let people know our story. So
that's wonderful. So what else can you tell, or what call to action is needed for Tykes and Teens that the community might be able to get behind besides just donations? Is there any
I think spreading the
tangible?
word.
Okay.
We do a lot of mental health awareness events during this month. We really want to, and I know that the pandemic lessened the stigma. I'm not sure it's gone away. But we just want people to know that help is out there, where that help is available, and to not feel like there isn't a solution for you. I think for a lot of our families, we get funding from United Way as well, and the ALTOSS population, asset limited, income constrained, employed, are working.
It's a mouthful.
But our working parents sometimes feel that they know their children need the help, but it's just one more thing on their plate. And how do they get that? And so what I would say is just tell them to have that initial assessment, because we might be able to find a plan that works for them. Whether it's a group or, we might be able to help them find transportation. We might be able to do telehealth. There are lots of different ways that we could help someone get the care they need. So when you
use you as a resource,
use us as a resource, and recognize that it's difficult to ask for help, but it's much more difficult to deal with the secondary impacts that happen when we don't get the help we need.
100%. So,
and you can also donate. So if you
go
to our website, there is a Donate Now button.
Okay, and you can also find that on the CSC website. For under our funded programs, you'll find Tykes and Teens. You'll click and see all the different programs that are funded through Tykes and Teens, and there's a link to their donation. So, Ann, I just want to thank you for your time today and coming to chat with me just a little bit for our Community Unity vlog. Back in studio, this time we're at the 10th Street Studio in the City of Stuart Community Center. So please stay tuned, like and subscribe, and share our information, because we want to be sure to keep this community engaged and highlight the wonderful game changers out there.
Well, and thank you for letting me be your first in-studio guest.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you and your patience and your time with us today. Thank you, Ann.
Thanks, Cheree.
Have a good one, guys.